I noticed it because the phone vibrated without making a sound. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, lights off, the room lit only by the faint glow coming in through the window. The street outside was quiet, too quiet for that time of night. No cars passing, no voices, just the distant hum of something electrical, maybe a transformer down the block. The vibration came again. I hadn't enabled silent mode. I never did at night. I liked hearing notifications, even meaningless ones. The sound grounded me. I picked up the phone and looked at the screen. Her name was there. Not a nickname, not a number. Her full name exactly as I'd saved it years ago. For a moment, I didn't react at all. I just stared at it, waiting for my mind to correct itself, to realize I'd misread it, to notice some small detail that would make it make sense. Nothing changed. The notification preview showed a single line. "Did you get home okay?" I didn't open the message. I didn't swipe it away. I just sat there, phone resting in my hand, feeling the familiar weight of it while everything else in the room seemed to recede. She had died 6 months earlier. I didn't think that right away. My mind didn't jump there. It hovered around the edges of the thought, circling it carefully, as if approaching too directly would make it real again. I locked the phone and set it face down on the bed. The room felt colder after that. I waited for another vibration. It didn't come. The quiet returned, pressing in from all sides. I listened for sounds from outside, for anything that would re-anchor me in the moment. There was nothing. Eventually, I picked the phone up again and unlocked it. The message was still there, unread. I told myself there had to be an explanation, a delayed text, a glitch, someone spoofing a number. Apps do strange things sometimes. Technology fails in small, unpredictable ways. I opened the message. It showed as delivered, not read. The typing indicator wasn't there. There was no follow-up. Just that one line sitting in the thread beneath months of silence. I scrolled up without meaning to. The last message before that was mine, sent the day before her funeral. "I'll bring the jacket you left here." She never read it. I stared at the space between those messages, longer than I should have. The gap felt wider than time alone could explain. I didn't reply. I placed the phone back down and stood up, pacing the small bedroom, trying to burn off the sudden tightness in my chest. The floor creaked softly under my steps. Familiar sounds, normal sounds. I stopped near the window and looked out at the street. Everything was still. After a while, I convinced myself it was some kind of system error. Old messages resurfacing, contacts syncing incorrectly. I'd heard stories like that before. Rare, but not impossible. I went to bed without responding. Sleep didn't come easily. Sometime in the early morning, the phone vibrated again. This time, it made a sound. The sound pulled me out of sleep immediately. It wasn't loud, just the default notification tone. Soft, familiar. The kind of sound I'd heard thousands of times before without thinking about it. This time it felt invasive. I lay there for a few seconds, staring into the dark, listening for it again. My heart rate stayed steady. I wasn't panicking. I felt alert in a way that sleep usually dulls. The phone didn't vibrate again. I reached over and picked it up. The screen lit my face brighter than I expected. Her name was there again. Another message. I didn't open it right away. I sat up slowly, resting my feet on the floor, grounding myself in the feel of the carpet. I needed to be awake enough to know what I was seeing. I unlocked the phone. "Why didn't you answer?" That was it. No emojis, no punctuation beyond the question mark. Exactly how she used to text when she was checking in on me. Not upset, not playful, just straightforward. The timestamp showed it had been sent less than a minute earlier. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. 6 months. That was how long it had been since the accident. Long enough that the shock had settled into something quieter. Long enough that I'd started to adjust to the absence in small ways, like not reaching for my phone when something reminded me of her. This wasn't one of those moments. I locked the phone again and set it on the nightstand, farther away than before. I sat there in the dark, listening to the faint sounds of the building around me. Pipes, air moving through vents, a distant siren somewhere in the city. I told myself I wasn't going to respond. That decision felt important, like a boundary. If it was a glitch, responding might encourage it. If it was someone messing with me, they'd lose interest. If it was something else, something I didn't want to consider, then responding felt like stepping into it willingly. I lay back down and forced myself to close my eyes. Sleep didn't return. When morning came, the phone was silent. No new messages, no missed calls. I checked the thread anyway. The messages were still there. I read them again, slower this time. There were no spelling mistakes, no awkward phrasing, no sign that someone unfamiliar with her habits had written them. I didn't reply. I went to work like normal. The day moved forward in its usual way. Emails, conversations that required attention, coffee breaks. For a few hours at a time, I managed to forget about the phone in my pocket. Then, during lunch, it vibrated again. No sound this time, just the vibration. I didn't look at it immediately. I finished chewing, swallowed, took a sip of water. I was aware of my own movements in a way that felt detached, like I was watching myself go through the motions. When I finally checked, there was another message. "Are you upset with me?" That one hit differently. It wasn't threatening. It wasn't strange. It was familiar in a way that bypassed logic. She used to ask that exact question when I went quiet longer than usual. Not accusatory, just checking. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering above the keyboard. I didn't type anything. I locked the phone and put it face down on the table. The rest of the day passed in fragments. I caught myself checking reflections in windows, watching my phone screen light up, even when it hadn't. My body stayed calm, but my thoughts kept looping back to the same point. Someone, or something, was trying to start a conversation. That evening, when I got home, the apartment felt quieter than usual. I turned on lights as I moved from room to room, not out of fear, out of habit. I set the phone down on the kitchen counter and walked away from it. I made dinner, ate standing up. The phone didn't move. Afterward, I sat on the couch and waited. It took almost an hour. The vibration was gentle, brief. I didn't look right away. When I finally did, the message was longer. "I had a weird dream about you last night. You were standing in the kitchen and wouldn't look at me." I read it twice. She used to tell me about her dreams like that. Casual, as if they were observations rather than something meaningful. She believed dreams didn't mean anything unless you tried too hard to make them mean something. My hands felt steady as I typed. "I think someone is using your number." I stared at the message before sending it. Then I deleted it. I sat there for a long time, phone in my lap, the glow of the screen lighting the room. Eventually, without fully deciding to, I typed something else. "Who is this?" The message sent immediately. There was no delay, no loading indicator. The reply came less than 10 seconds later. "It's me." I didn't breathe for a moment after that. I stared at the words until they lost shape. "It's me." No explanation, no clarification, just the statement sitting there on the screen like it had always belonged there. I locked the phone without responding and set it on the coffee table. I leaned back into the couch and looked at the ceiling, counting the faint cracks in the paint, focusing on anything that wasn't the thought pressing at the edges of my mind. I told myself I wasn't going to engage anymore. Whatever this was, it wasn't her. It couldn't be. That was the one certainty I still had. I'd stood at the hospital. I'd signed paperwork. I'd watched people lower her into the ground. There were too many witnesses. Too much reality layered on top of the memory. I stayed on the couch until the light outside the windows faded completely. The city settled into its nighttime rhythm. Distant traffic. Someone laughing somewhere below. The ordinary sounds made the apartment feel safer. The phone didn't move. Around 10, I picked it up again. The message thread was unchanged. No new texts, no typing indicator. Just the last line staring back at me. It's me. I went to bed without replying. That night, I dreamed of my phone ringing from another room. I could hear it clearly, but every time I tried to move toward it, the sound drifted farther away, echoing down a hallway that didn't exist in my apartment. I woke up before dawn, heart steady, mouth dry. The phone was on the nightstand, exactly where I'd left it. There were 3 new messages. They'd come in over the course of the night, spaced out by hours. I don't like when you ignore me. I don't understand what I did. Can you please answer? I sat up slowly, letting the weight of the morning settle around me. The messages weren't frantic. They weren't angry. They read the way she used to sound when she was confused, trying to fix something she didn't think should be broken. That familiarity was the worst part. I took the phone into the bathroom and set it face down on the counter. I turned on the shower, letting the water run hot, filling the small room with steam and noise. I needed to feel something immediate, physical. When I stepped out, towel around my waist, the mirror was fogged over. I wiped a clear patch and looked at my reflection. I looked the same, tired, a little older, nothing out of place. I got dressed and left for work without touching the phone again. By noon, I had 5 more messages. They weren't accusatory. They weren't demanding. They were observations. I saw the jacket you used to wear. You still take the long way home. You never liked that coffee place near your office. I stopped reading after that. Those weren't things anyone could guess from social media. They weren't things she'd ever posted about. They were details pulled from shared routines, from habits that had existed only between us. I turned the phone off. For the first time since this started, the silence felt intentional, controlled. I went through the rest of the workday with the phone powered down in my bag, resisting the urge to check it. When I turned it back on that evening, the messages flooded in all at once. There were too many to read quickly. Paragraphs, apologies, questions. Long pauses marked by timestamps, hours apart. One message stood out. I don't know where I am. Can you tell me where I am? I sat at the kitchen table with the phone in my hands, the overhead light casting a sharp circle around me. The rest of the apartment was dark. I thought about deleting the thread, blocking the number, changing my phone altogether. Instead, I typed, "You're not here." The reply came slower this time. "I know, I can tell." My fingers hovered over the screen. "How?" Several seconds passed. "I don't feel cold." I didn't respond after that. The messages slowed down over the next few days. They didn't stop, but they became less frequent, shorter, less certain. Sometimes they asked questions. Sometimes they just stated things. "I can hear you breathe when you're asleep." "I think I'm close to you." "I don't remember leaving." I stopped sleeping with the phone in the bedroom. I left it charging in the kitchen overnight, door closed. Even then, I found myself waking up, listening for vibrations that never came. One night, while brushing my teeth, I noticed the bathroom light flicker. Just once. I froze, foam in my mouth, eyes locked on the mirror. The light steadied. The reflection matched me perfectly. Still, I rinsed quickly and turned the light off, leaving the bathroom in darkness. When I checked the phone later, there was one new message. "I don't like the dark." I left the bathroom light on after that. It wasn't something I decided consciously. I just noticed later that I hadn't turned it off. The soft glow spilled into the hallway, cutting the apartment into two halves, one lit, one dark. I stayed on the lit side. I didn't reply to the message. I don't like the dark. I read it once, then again, then set the phone face down on the table. I could feel the impulse to respond rising in me, the same reflex that used to kick in when she sounded uncomfortable or unsure. I recognized it for what it was and let it pass. The next message didn't come for almost a full day. That absence felt deliberate. I went through my routine carefully. Work, groceries, dinner, television for noise. I avoided silence as much as possible. When I noticed the apartment growing too quiet, I turned something on. Anything. That night, just after midnight, the phone vibrated once. I picked it up immediately. I remember the sound of your apartment. I sat on the couch, elbows on my knees, phone glowing in my hands. What sound? I typed before I could stop myself. The reply came slower than usual. The way it goes quiet when you turn everything off. I deleted my message history with shaking fingers, then realized that didn't erase anything on her end, whatever her end was. The thread repopulated as soon as another message came in. "I don't think I'm supposed to be here," it said. That was the first time the wording shifted. Less familiar, less confident. I didn't respond. The next few messages came over the following days, spaced out and uneven. Sometimes she sounded like herself. Sometimes she sounded like someone trying to remember how she used to sound. "I miss your voice." I don't know how long it's been. Something feels wrong when I stop thinking. I stopped charging my phone overnight. I powered it down completely before bed, then turned it back on in the morning. The messages still came through eventually, queued up and waiting. One evening I came home to find the bathroom light off. I stood in the doorway, staring down the hallway, trying to remember if I'd turned it off that morning. I hadn't. I turned it back on and left it that way. Later that night, as I sat in bed reading with the lamp on, the phone buzzed again. "I can see the light." I sat up straighter. "What light?" I typed, then erased it before sending. Another message appeared. "The one you leave on now?" I didn't sleep after that. I spent the night on the couch, TV on low, lights on in every room. Around 3 in the morning, the messages stopped entirely. No vibrations, no notifications, just silence. In the morning, I checked the phone. There was one final message, time-stamped just before sunrise. "I think I'm forgetting things again." I stared at it for a long time. That was the last message I ever received from her number. I changed phones a week later. New number, new account. I didn't transfer the old data. I told myself it was practical, necessary. The new phone has never vibrated at night. But sometimes, when I leave a light on without realizing it, I catch myself wondering who else might notice, and whether silence, once learned, is something that ever really forgets.